and welcome to Chatty AF, the Anime Feminist podcast. Today, we're starting our watch-along of the shoujo series Yona of the Dawn. My name is Caitlin, and I'm a writer and editor for Anime Feminist, as well as writing about anime for the Daily Dot, and my own long-neglected blog, I Have a Heroin Problem. Today, I am joined by our own Peter Phobian and special guest Gabriella Ekins.
I'm Peter Phobian. I'm an associate features editor at Crunchyroll and a contributor and editor at Anime Feminist.
Hey, I'm Gabriella Ekins. I write for Anime News Network, most recently for the Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 2 daily streaming reviews.
Yay. All right.
Doing God's work.
And I gotta say, some of the most interesting and high concept preview reviews on the site have been from you. Your Pop Team Epic reviews were just like, I'm gonna take this show's weirdness, I'm gonna throw it right back
Yeah,
at
those
it.
Reviews nearly killed me. It was fun doing university while writing those, because I had to come up with something, then I had to format it. But people seemed to like them. It was fun.
Yeah, you did some pretty incredible work. This is a little bit more straightforward than Pop Team Epic, though. Yona of the Dawn is a shoujo action-adventure series that has been running in Hanato Yume since 2009. The Japanese release is currently at 27 volumes. The English version is being put out by Viz's Shoujo Beat line, and it started not long after the anime broadcast in the US. And the anime ran from fall 2014 through winter 2015, animated by Studio Pierrot. It doesn't really have a particularly interesting or storied history as far as I know. It's pretty straightforward. But I have been a big fan of it ever since the anime started running. And it was just like, this is my shit. Just inject this directly into the veins. This is the sort of series that got me into anime. That unfortunately they don't really make a lot of anymore. They don't make a lot of adventure shoujo shows anymore, which is too bad because I love them so much. And Yona of the Dawn was exactly what I've been craving and what I have never stopped craving and what I continue to crave. And after the anime ran, I started buying the manga, and I still buy the new releases every 2 months when they come out. It's not a particularly interesting or exciting history like we have with some of the watch-alongs, but oh well. Peter and Gabo, do you have did you go into this with any prior knowledge or expectations?
I guess for me, I watched the first episode when it first came out, was it 2 years ago? 2 or 3.
2014.
And I thought the first episode was kind of generic, so I didn't watch anymore. But then as the season went on, my friends got more and more into it, and I was like, this seems cool, but I never just started watching it again. But I've been hearing great things about it.
It's a rough first episode.
Yeah, it's a little. It sort of undersells the show a bit.
I, for a long time, got Yona mixed up with Snow White with the red hair.
Oh, easy mistake.
I can see why, because they're both fantasy series about redheads, and they're pretty contemporaneous. I think they came out very close to each other.
Yeah, I very much liked 12 Kingdoms, and so I am interested in both Yona and Snow White with the red hair as other adventure shoujo series. Neither's isekai, though, are they?
No.
Yeah.
Snow White with the red hair isn't really an adventure series either.
Dee's been trying to sell it in a variety of ways to me, so... but yeah, if it could capture any of the magic of 12 Kingdoms, which is probably one of my favorite anime, then I was definitely interested. So, that's the extent of my knowledge.
So, do you feel like so far it's on track to do that?
I would not. I mean, that we're early yet, but I feel like it's gotten kind of a more... It honestly reminds me more of Fushigi Yugi than 12 Kingdoms so far. I mean, there are definitely some similar elements, and there's that flash forward. So I'm eager to see what happens when he gets into it. But I think kind of 12 Kingdoms had a very unique start and kind of this really grim feeling about it. whereas Yona is a lot more of that, like, kind of set up social relationships and, like, has that alternating, like, normal character designs and kind of, like, the goofy, joking around character designs that I'm much more familiar with in shoujo series.
I think the Fushigi Yugi comparison is really fair. A lot of people made that, myself included. I think the comparison is unfair to Fushigi Yugi because Fushigi Yugi does some different things, but I'm not going to get into that whole thing right now. But definitely, like, when Yona came out, it's like, oh, this is doing the same thing as Fushigi Yugi, but better. And it's definitely a less messy show. But I love both of them a lot. So shall we get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Yeah. So, like, the show did have a really, really slow start. I feel like that first flash forward in the first episode is almost like, hey, we know how this looks.
Yeah.
We know how Yona comes across, but bear with us.
Yeah, stick with it, please. You'll get some...
It gets better pretty quickly.
She does a lot of growing.
Yeah. Through the first episode, I was really concerned, but then, it was dramatic, the increase. Because, like, even the dialogue was just, like, I think she and Hawk got in a fight, and then her father's like, you shouldn't treat that way, both of you being childhood friends and him being one of my top 5 generals, of course. And I was like, geez, that's the most elegant way you could throw in all that character information. But, yeah, like, after 2, I was like, oh, okay, that was just them trying to get right into the meat of things as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
My general rule is that, like, if you start doing, like, super deformed antics before you've established, like, the stakes in the show, like, in the first episode or who anyone really is, like, that's kind of a bad sign, and that's what the show does, and that's why I was turned away. But that, like, dropped really, really quick and got, like, right into the drama really fast.
Yeah, it spends a lot of time, I think, on the character setup, not just in the first episode, but the first few episodes. Like, the third episode was like 2/3 flashbacks to their childhood, and I get what they were doing, but I think they didn't need to do that much with it. They say show don't tell, but it was a lot of showing in a 24 episode show, when you could be getting to, like, the actual plot.
Well, I kind of sympathize because it's obviously trying to tell a story where all the Yona, Hawk, and Suwon are, like, really close childhood friends, have a lot of history together, and you really need to establish that because of what happens. But you also, what happens is, like, the hook that drives the plot and, like, the adventure and all the interesting stuff. So you have to, like, balance the actual events of the story that are the appeal with showing people why his betrayal is so significant and traumatizing to Hawk and Yona.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, I don't know, I have really mixed feelings because the first episode in particular, like, you know, Gabo, you said it drove you away, and I think it had that effect on quite a few people. But I also think, like, a lot of that setup does drive a lot of the emotional payoff. It's real, like, they put a lot of work into establishing that Yona is a very silly, spoiled, kind of shallow person at the beginning. Like, she gets everything she wants except for Suwon. And it's not, like, dismissive of her feelings. Like, it strikes a really good balance between, like, she is spoiled, like, and all she really thinks about is, like, really just, like, superficial things. And her father is incredibly indulgent without being like, oh, you silly girl, like, you're just in love with this boy who you can't have, and that's ridiculous, because her love for Suwon is really, really important to the show.
Yeah, and it's not like a shallow infatuation. Well, I think it's like a young infatuation, but they do, like, even beyond the romantic angle, they do care about each other deeply. So it's not just like a crush sort of leading her in this way, which helps.
Yeah, and it wasn't just because he's hot either.
Yeah.
It was because they, like, he'd been nice to her and helped her overcome her mother's death and stuff. So he was definitely, like, present, and there were aspects of his character that she loved, not just, like, that's the hottest guy around.
And he's sweet to her.
Yeah, he's a nice guy
He's a nice guy.
Until...
Yeah.
Well.
He seems like a nice guy. I mean, even Hawk likes him too. They're all best friends, so it's obvious he's like a really stand-up cool dude, especially when there's a lot of apparently shitheels in court trying to suit her.
There was that one flashback in like later in the episodes where Suwon was like, "I don't want everything, Hawk. I want you."
Whoa, whoa, yeah, I noticed that. I was like,
But anyway, and Yona's the kind of show where it doesn't feel like silly, like shipping to like get that impression too.
I'm curious to see where that'll go. Whether they'll play into it a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like the show is just like it, like I said, it is everything that I ever want in an anime, well, except for a conclusive ending, which, you know, the manga's working on. But it is like perfect. Like, Yona's such a great heroine. She does so much growing during the show. And you can, like, you kind of start to see that in the, towards the end of this stretch. All of the character relationships are really, like, satisfying and well thought out. The world is, the world is really, like, well developed. And, like, there's a lot of, we don't get into this yet, but I will say, like, the sort of the socio-political elements of the world are really, like, really well thought out and, like, researched and considered. And just, like, you know, the character growth and the character relationships is everything I want in a fantasy series. Why can't we have more shoujo like this?
I want them to do, they should do Red River with Mappa.
God, yeah.
And
I've literally been hollering for exactly this. Mappa, Red River series, directed by, if not Sayo Yamamoto, although...
Do the Banana Fish director, the Free Lady?
Yeah, Utsumi would be great for it. Oh, like a female director. Although Yona doesn't have a female director, but like a female director who really gets the sort of the bodice ripper appeal of it. Oh, but we're not talking about Red River. Maybe someday we'll talk about a Red River anime, but today we're talking about Yona.
I was wondering, how much of the manga does this anime cover?
Let me pull a random volume off of my shelf.
It's interesting to hear it so long.
It's still running, and it's at 27 volumes. It's definitely an epic.
Okay.
I don't have any random volumes on my shelf because I lent them to my friend.
It's like Shoujo Kingdom.
Yeah. And it is, like, the setting is a little bit different. It's sort of, most sources I looked at said it takes cues from a lot of, like, the East Asian setting of the time period, but the most, like, obvious the most obvious one is Korea. Like, they have Korean names, and, like, their clothes, like, Yona wears a hanbok. By the way, to any Korean-speaking listeners, I apologize if I mutilate any of the names. When, like, I saw people having a discussion online when they were, like, trying to figure out what the name Yona means. It's like, I can't find anything about it, like, and it doesn't have kanji, so, like, I can't just look up the kanji. It's like, guys, it's a Korean name, it means lotus.
Yeah, like, those names are all super Korean if you've ever, like, known a Korean person.
Yeah, which I did know a lot of Korean people in high school, because I went to a gifted program in LA.
Yay.
So, but how do you guys feel about Yona so far?
What I really like about her is that she feels like a balance between, like, there seems to be, like, two types of generic heroines for this type of show. There's, like, the super girly, like damsel-y one who's like, there's the princess type and there's the warrior type. And I think Yona's like a good balance between the two because we're watching like the development of the princess type into the warrior type without like sacrificing so far like her feminine qualities or like repudiating that in a way that's not, it's not Mary Sue-ish. Like she's not like a fainting damsel or like I'm the ultimate badass princess who was taught all martial arts by my dad.
Yeah, it's never really presented that she's wrong, like, for caring about fashion, like her clothes or her hair, or like she does because she is so spoiled and she was never really given anything else to care about. She never had any other reason to care about things, but not that she is like a bad person because she is interested in these things. Just, or like being girly is a bad thing for her. It's just that is been her life so far because that is sort of what she's been set up to do.
Yeah, and I think they kind of portray it through the light of that's the type of life that her father wanted for her, which is why he avoids like international conflict and stuff like that. He wants his people to live in peace, so she is able to live in kind of a setting where she doesn't need to worry about like an opposing army or something like that, at least, you know, at the beginning. So I feel like that was kind of part and parcel to, like, the lifestyle was kind of part of her father's ideal.
Yeah. And she's not going to be queen. Whoever she marries will become king. I mean, she will be queen, but it's sort of the implication that, like, she doesn't need to worry about it because she's going to be set up to marry someone who can who knows how to run the country. Well, we'll see how that turns out. I do think, Peter, there's, like, some parallels between Yona and Yoko in 12 Kingdoms at the start.
You think so?
'Cause they're both, I think so. Like, not totally, but they're both sort of thrown. Obviously, Yoko didn't have a hawk figure, but they're both sort of torn out of these lives that they've known and thrown into this, like, terrifying, totally unfamiliar situation where they kind of have to survive. And the whole world just seems hostile to them.
Yeah. I say, well, I guess Yoko couldn't really defend herself. It was mostly her, whatever that ghost guy was. God, why did I forget his name? So if Hawk is kind of the allegory for that, it's sort of, there's definitely kind of like a, and I think this is pretty common of isekai, even though Yona's not an isekai, where, you know, you're kind of thrown into the traumatizing experience, and maybe the first half of the first season is just literally like kind of coming to terms with where you are and that this is your new life and you have to make the best of it, which is why right at the end we got her big moment. By the way, you didn't tell me that Yona was based in the world of One Piece.
What?
I mean, that was obviously Emperor Haki she was using to make the guys unable to attack her.
To make the
what?
I
thought she was using the mystic eyes of Medusa from Fate's Day Night.
It could have been. It could be a Fate series too. Yeah. Emperor Haki makes people foam at the mouth and fall over or unable to attack. So I guess that guy was strong-willed.
It's been a very long time since I've watched or read. Well, I've never watched One Piece. It's been a very long time since I've read One Piece.
Mm-hmm. I did think that was interesting, by the way, that fire general who was introduced in that flashback earlier is sort of coming after her.
Junte.
Yeah, he actually was very upset that he believed that he was responsible for her death and didn't want to kill her. I think in most series they probably would have just made that guy a cackle fiend.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like, they had this scene for him.
Yeah, he was like really upset and wanted to like get some sort of punishment for like getting them killed. I mean, he was obviously ambitious and an asshole, but I think it kind of made me wonder if the series, well, that ends with Suwon, how much the series is going to try to sort of portray everyone, especially the villains, as complex individuals who aren't entirely evil. Because you can definitely go that way with a shoujo like this too, like the bad guy in Fushigi Yuki. If I recall correctly, he's just kind of straight up evil.
Yeah, Nakago.
And there's not too much complexity to that.
The thing with Nakago is that the show, by the end, when the show sort of gives the tragic flashbacks, by that point it's kind of like, cool motive, still murder and rape and all that sort of stuff. And Yona definitely goes for something a lot more complicated than that.
I guess to me that scene and like the scenes like it really exemplify like Yona's like biggest strength is that it's like very much this type of show, but it takes like enough more effort into the characterization to like give it a lot of like extra oomph so far. Like other moments like that are like how seriously like it treats the friendship between like Yona, Hawk, and Suwon. Like it could have just made him like, ha ha ha, I'm the traitor. I fooled you all these years, but he's like really torn up about it. Or even like the like retainer guy who like dies in episode 2. I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, yeah. He got murdered. That was pretty gruesome, actually. The one who pretended to be her and ran off and just like died from 8 arrows getting shot into him.
Yeah, that's Minsu.
Yeah,
and there is like, even though he's such like a minimal character, there is a sense of loss there. Like she just saw this person who genuinely cared about her sacrifice his life for her. Like, and it, instead of him being just sort of like, this random character who gets killed to sort of show the stakes in the first episode, it's like a real moment of realization for Yona that's like, this is happening. This is like, people are dying for me.
Yeah, and there's going to be like mortal consequences later on for sure. So it definitely sets a tone.
And the production gives it a good sense of gravitas too. I think that's the point where I realized like, oh, the first episode was weak, but like the show does have some chops once it like sort of sets them up.
Yeah, I think that was the moment. The whole like her walking in on the murder scene and that scene, kind of like were my first step, like my what would I call that? Like my recovery breath, where I was like going, is this actually not good? But then those two scenes, I was like, oh, okay. It's definitely doing some cool stuff.
And then we haven't talked a lot about Hawk. Who is kind of a controversial,
you mean the boyfriend?
Character.
My boyfriend.
Yeah.
Mr. Boyfriend.
He is your type. In the Fate universe, he would be a Lancer.
What would Yona be? Yona be an archer, I guess. From the spoiler flashback.
Yeah. Yona
in the opening.
But, so like when I started doing my stuff about abusive boyfriends in shoujo, Hawk comes up a lot. And you can sort of like, I don't necessarily agree, but you see the sort of stuff that gets him that reputation in these episodes. I can see how he's
seen as that. Like the worst thing he ever does is I think it's in the 5th episode when he's like, I'm leaving you unless you can pay me with your body. And it's like, I think it's pretty obvious to me that like that was just an attempt to drive her off rather than a real thing.
Yeah. It was posturing.
But like, he's just kind of brood and bickering. To me, it's nothing like serious. It's just like they've known each other forever. This is how you'd act with someone you'd known forever.
Yeah.
Right.
It just seemed like that was the kind of friendship they had where they like are always fighting and making up, and it's never really like, it never came across as like serious stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, I just had a friend move to Seattle who like I knew in college, so I've known them for like almost 10 years. It's like we just hurl insults at each other constantly. Like that's just their.
But when the going gets tough, like they're all for each other. Like no hesitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I like Hawk. I think he is. It is important to have someone like him by Yona's side. And I think that if it had been just someone who was just kind to her, like it could have been a little bit saccharine.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like also girls like that. Let them have the fantasy of like the gruff, slightly rude boy. Some girls like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't normally like that, but like Hawk, I don't know. Hawk is hot.
He popped off too. He got some serious Sakuga like 2 or 3 times, especially in episode 6. I was like, damn, this is like the best fight animation I've seen in a shoujo series.
It's that fight scene where he's fighting the fire tribe is incredible. Like I didn't remember it from like the first couple times I watched it, but just like the way like there was real weight to like how he was swinging around his like what would you call that kind of weapon?
It's a type of lance.
I know it's
a big halberd,
like pole arm.
Halberd or glaive or
glaive. Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, would you call
probably
it
like
glaive?
I'd call it glaive.
Probably like a Korean name for glaive.
I'm sure it's got some sort of. Yeah, I'm sure it's got an actual name that somebody's going to tell us. But
yeah, I'll look it up in like 5 minutes when the episode is done. But like when he's there's a real sense of weight to it because that looks like a heavy weapon. Or like when he's stumbling because he got shot with the poison arrow and it's starting to take effect. Like you feel like every bit of impact to it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking watching it. They kind of do these really interesting. And we're just talking about animation right now. They like. Yeah, the beginning of the swing is really slow, and then he suddenly, like, snaps out, and then it takes a long time to recover again, so you get the feeling like it's just this really heavy bladed object that he is somehow moving supernaturally fast, and that's why people get knocked away when they get hit by it. So I think they really kind of conveyed the reason why. What do they call him? Lightning something?
Lightning hawk or lightning
like
blitz
lightning.
Or something?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Thunder Beast.
Okay.
It kind of gave the a good visual indicator as to why that he was called that, which I think was pretty nice. You don't usually get... I don't want to say you don't usually get... It's cool when they can include like a thoughtful visual representation of something that is kind of just portrayed verbally in the manga. And I think they kind of sold that really well. Yeah.
Oh, the part where he swings around his neck. Oh, it's so cool. It's just such a good fight scene.
Yeah, that kind of set my expectation for future fights. So I hope they keep it up.
Well, I looked it up, and that is the only episode that Animator worked on because somehow I ended up in a Sakuga Discord channel. I'm not sure like literally by accident. But
we've all been down that black hole.
Did you just like click a random spam link and it was like you were buying your like erectile dysfunction pills, but it was a thing to the Sakuga blog Discord?
I'll tell you about it later, but I don't regret being in there so far.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. It's just it's very dataful. Dataful. Once you start trying to find out some sort of important piece of Sakuga information, next thing you know, you're like looking at 30 different people's names and trying to find out who did what cut in which episode.
Yeah, it's just kind of a scary road to go down.
Yeah, it's a time commitment.
It's very curative.
Yeah.
And I'm generally more into transformative fandom. But anyway, I think, and Hawk and Yona have a really good relationship. I think, like, we were talking about how he's, like, they're obviously close friends. Obviously, he's, like, the obvious love interest for her, too.
I also like, he's a good version of, like, I guess, the gruff love interest archetype, like, because his meanness is pretty mild. It's just playful, and also, like, he seems to already like her.
He's rude. He's rude. Like, he's not cruel.
Yeah.
He's just, like, he's rude to her.
He's being tsundere.
She's rude back.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
He's very tsundere, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the part where they're, like, she's trying to convince him to let her go with her, and he's like, and he's doing his whole thing, like, oh, well, maybe you should pay me with your body, and, like, eventually she just stands and she looks him in the eye, she's like, I want you, Hawk.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
And he just, like, sits down on the ground. It's like, oh, he's turned on by this, huh?
Ooh.
He is turned on.
Yeah,
by
maybe that's why
he's
always picking on her so that she'll like hit him or something. That's the objective.
Yeah,
is the response.
I think I follow a bunch of Hawks on Twitter.
Yeah, lots of Hawks in the anime fandom.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you definitely get that a lot. I've seen that a lot in shoujo, where like the gruff dude is just like when you just kind of step back and think about it, they're just fucking abusive. But I think he's pretty just kind of very short, and mostly it just comes off as him trying not to act like he has the hots for her, which is pretty obvious. I mean, they basically said he does already. So that's just kind of his way of maintaining his distance, and it's kind of just a back and forth that they're very familiar with and neither one has a problem with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely like, not necessarily equal, because like she's the princess and he's her retainer, but
consensual.
And mostly harmless. Like, again, the worst thing he ever said was, like a clearly a pretty transparently like a lie to get her to back off.
Yeah, it's mutual. It's very like everything they both like it's a lot of give and take between the two of them.
Yeah, that's interesting
which I
though,
don't have a problem with.
Just before that he was getting a short sword and a bow and arrow, right? And then he's like, I'm going to leave by myself. And I'm like, who's the short sword and the bow and arrow for?
Oh,
who would possibly use
I never thought about
a fucking
that.
short sword and a bow and arrow since you have a lance? Are you going to start shooting people? Well, he doesn't.
Oh.
I feel like he kind of just was hedging his bets or knew that he was going to get owned or something.
No, he definitely knew that what was going to happen. I never thought of that. That's a good point.
Good observation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see her shooting the bow later, and I was like, okay, I guess that's where she gets it. Although I don't know why he's buying it now. And now we know.
And then we have like the third, the third part of their childhood friend trio is Suwon.
I love X1999.
What the fuck is with Suwon?
I actually think I really like kind of the setup that they had, because I feel like I mean, we don't know. I know everything about his backstory and what motivated him to betray the king yet. Although it seems like maybe the king. I feel like Suwon was probably lied to about the king killing his dad or his mom.
His dad.
Yeah. That just like her dad has been pretty firmly established as like. I guess more could be revealed later, but even like in his character design, that he's very kind of like. Unassuming, but in a way where he is kind of very dedicated to his like peaceful way that's not really respected. I like her dad a lot, so it'll suck if it turns out he was an asshole. But I feel like he's lied to and been manipulated, and he honestly feels like this is the only way. Not making excuses for him or anything, but in effect, I feel like the story is trying to set up to show that he actually really fucked himself over, because I feel like if he did nothing, then she would have convinced her dad to let her marry him, because that's literally what she was trying to do right then, and then he would have gotten everything he wanted without murdering his best friend's dad, and like basically not being friends with his childhood friends anymore, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's my
dumb
prediction.
Blood food nonsense, like ruined the whole thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm curious to see more backstory. That like the dad kind of. He looks like a doofus, but that guy is clearly something is going on in the background. Whether he's good or bad, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he clearly like has some motivation. And everyone thinks he's an idiot, but he knows something.
I like how Suwon's dad looks like a character out of like Kingdom or like some other sort of like very like a military anime or manga.
Yeah. Actually, when he was introduced, that was like one of the, like, I was kind of like, I'm not doing this intentionally, but I was kind of like, I guess, making up a list in my head of things that I was, like, were concerning me about the series. And one of them was her dad's character design, who was just so fucking basic and bland.
Yeah.
And I was like, he seems like an important character. Why does he just look like somebody who should be standing in the background? But it really kind of, like, once you find out more about him, it's, like, almost perfect for the type of person that he is. Like, his whole deal is you don't think much of him, but he's actually kind of a strong guy when it comes down to it. And his, like, you can see why people think that of him, both in the way that he acts and the way that he looks. Like, literally a background character wearing a crown. I thought that was, like, I actually really respect the character design now.
Yeah. Mizuho Kusanagi is very good. I forgot to mention the name of the original manga writer, Mizuho Kusanagi.
It's a kick-ass name.
Yeah, well, she probably picked it herself.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure most manga writers don't write under their real name.
I know, most people probably aren't named Kusanagi.
Yeah, that's
either.
like almost a Ghost in the Shell name. And isn't like one of the 3 like Imperial prizes or something that you get from like the Imperial Gachapon machine?
And only 3 options, 33% chance.
Yeah.
You get the sword, the mirror, the gems.
What?
It's the Imperial Regalia.
You know the Sailor Moon, the outer planets, like why they have the gem, the sword, and the mirror?
I haven't watched
Well, there are like
Moon.
3 like Imperial like objects for like the Japanese Imperial crown thing. And
Okay.
Yeah, there's the mirror that Amaterasu saw herself in and got scared. the sword, and I don't remember what the gems have.
Maybe
to
like
do with
I think
anything.
it's the moon. I think
gift.
the Susano is like the sword or something.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then Tsukiyomi had the gems. Moon drops.
We may be completely wrong, just by the way, so don't cite this on your Japanese culture final.
Yeah. Love going off topic.
Darn. I do all my research through off-the-cuff comments in podcasts.
Oh, that's why I knew about it. It's Zelda. It's always from Zelda
okay.
games. Yeah, because you have the Master Sword, the Mirror Shield, and then you collect the gems. People always talk about like the kind of parallels.
All right, well, this is a tangent.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't remember how we got into this.
Yeah, no, Yona's dad is a really good example of like how they do a lot of development with a little, like they do a lot of showing about the kind of person he is. Like clearly, like he has a kind of strength that people don't really give him credit for, but at the same time he has spoiled his princess rotten. He never married again because or produced another child because even though arguably as the king he should, because he didn't want anything to happen to
Yona.
To Yona or to like anyone else like in his family. Like he's like, if this is the risk that my you are taking by being part of my family, then I'm not going to like have anyone else be in my family. So, but at the same time, like he'll like grab a sword by the hand to stop people from like getting out of hand and hurting each other in a fight.
Yep.
Over his daughter's honor. So like, he is a complicated person. So yeah, like, and you do kind of learn more about him as the series goes. The manga, as far as I've read, and like I said, I'm up with the US releases. Up to the US, they haven't really explained why exactly Suwon's dad was passed over to inherit the throne and why King Il was chosen.
Well, so they're still fighting Suwon in the manga now.
Yes.
Damn.
Well,
okay.
it is an epic.
Yeah.
Like the manga is an epic, and that is sort of the big, like the big thing that is happening in the not background, but like they're slowly working towards that.
Yeah, it really reminds me of what's the thing Hiromu Arakawa is doing right now?
Arslan?
Arslan, yeah. It's like female Arslan. It's female Korean Arslan.
And the Korea aesthetic is cool. I wish like the show looks mostly pretty good, but its like art design is really generic, which is one of the things that sort of held back the first episode before like the cool scenes kicked in. I wish like we could get like a really nice like Korea fantasy live show.
Well, I know that in that time period, it's like the Three Kingdoms period of Korea. There was a lot of sort of cross-cultural influence between Korea and China and Japan to a lesser extent. So there was, like, if I were more educated in East Asian art history, it's entirely possible there would be like a lot of cool background details that like I'm not picking up on. But I don't know. I know that they're wearing hanboks, or like, well, hanboks are like the dresses, but like I can identify Yona's clothes as being Korean. I haven't seen more traditional male Korean clothes, but I assume I'm assuming the same thing. I think the Wind Tribe's look is really cool. With the beads and the feathered headbands.
Yeah, it's definitely... Yeah, I could sense that it was going for... Well, I mean, the names were kind of a dead giveaway, but I felt like it was kind of a hybrid Korean aesthetic that it was going for.
I like the tiny crown thing that like the black-haired general who works with Suwon was wearing. So it's like, does he like have a hairband under there, or does he like pin it there? That's all I can think.
I think they're pinned. Yeah, but I it's interesting that they're still going, because I get the feeling that That's encouraging to know that they're still fighting Suwon in the manga, because I feel like there's a lot going on with him. Even like the small scenes you get with him, even though he like murders her dad, it definitely seemed like kind of he felt like it was a necessity, and all of his attention since then has been not on like killing them to erase the evidence of what he's doing, but he wants to consolidate power, and it doesn't seem like he wants to do that so much to solidify his rule as to make sure that he can protect the country. So it seems like he kind of wants to be a good ruler at the end of the day as well, which really kind of probably means that there's a lot more to be revealed with Yona's father as well. So you can definitely see it's hinting that there's like kind of either a really huge misunderstanding or some like big manipulations going on that drove Suwon to betray Yona and kill her father.
Yeah,
because he still seems like fundamentally maybe a good person who feels like he has had this had to happen. He had to do these things. There was no choice, or he had to make the hard decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because he stands there and says like the Suwon you knew never existed. Like he says that like he is always sort of been plotting this in the background, and his friendship with them and his bond with them was entirely fake. But the flashback to his conversation with Hawk didn't really give that impression. Like, it was very authentic, and his reaction when they think that Yona is dead is like he's shaken.
Yeah. To me, that really came off as him trying to distance himself from them, maybe to save their feelings instead of his, so that they wouldn't feel like maybe they were betrayed by a friend, or they wouldn't try to reach out to him, but they could like think of him as an enemy, and that would make things simpler.
Yeah, maybe.
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 Okay.
Sometimes I say maybe because I know what's coming, but I don't want to spoil things. And sometimes I say maybe because I genuinely don't know. Okay. Which is it here? Cool. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited for them to start accruing the party members in the opening.
I think there's at least one party member, Gabo, that I think you will really like.
The chipmunk.
Well,
where's the chipmunk?
Yes.
What episode does the chipmunk appear? I'm curious.
I am not sure.
Well, you know I love Rescue Rangers.
That's the one I'm waiting for. Yeah. Oh, damn, same. Yeah. Is it a Rescue Ranger?
Yeah. If you wear a Hawaiian shirt.
No. The chipmunk's a girl. That's sexist, making this.
I apologize. I have to.
It's all chipmunks.
How could
I think you have to erase this podcast now.
You're excommunicated. I didn't see.
Oh yeah, didn't you just record a podcast before this?
Yes,
you must be pretty tired.
No, it's cool. I got my vibe.
I'm not quite sure how I felt about it showing her like squad in the beginning. I definitely feel like they did it because they wanted you to know that there was going to be lots of fighty stuff later, and that she was going to shoot people with her bow and arrow and stuff. But I almost like feel like in this kind of setup that giving that away, I don't know. I'm not sure what like the way they would hook you in the beginning is. If not that, it's kind of unfortunate.
I mean, I think that's sort of the standard for this sort of series. Like, I don't want to say like reverse harem, but like the sort of series where it's like one central female character gathering a group of people as part of the series plot. Like it's those generally, like, they're all of the characters are in the opening theme song. Fushigi Yugi did it. There's a lot more to it than like just like who's the next one going to be.
But in this one it was kind of like, oh, is Hawk gonna die? It's like, well, no, there's a scene where he's with the squad later on, because it kind of shows it in context of an event as opposed to just showing all the characters that will be in the show at one point in an opening sequence. You know what I mean? Because like in Fushigi Yugi, there are character deaths, and those people are in the opening, but you don't know who's going to die because it doesn't show them like all together necessarily in a scene until they're all together in a scene chronologically. So like your Hawk and Yona fall off the cliff, but you know they're both going to be fine because she shoots a dude with a bow and arrow later while all of them are leaping into a ravine and killing those guys. So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily ruin it or anything, but I feel like the story could have kept some more dramatic tension by not doing that. I say this, but I can't really think of a better way they could have done it.
Honestly, like, what I'm really curious about referencing, like, Yona's badassery is, like, are her eyes magic, or is she just, like, that badass that she could prevent several people from killing her just by staring at
I'm telling you, it's Emperor Hockey. It's a known power system.
I forgot the Mystic
No,
Eyes.
Hawk is the boyfriend.
Yeah, Emperor.
He will be
Hawk.
Emperor Hawk
Yeah,
eventually. You know?
Yeah. That's the OTP.
I mean, I think I can say right now that it is pretty much just like charisma.
Yeah.
It's not like a special superpower as far as I know. The manga's still going. So like it could be something supernatural. Who knows? It is not supernatural as far as I know.
I'm not sure how I felt quite about that. I did like her interfering just by literally running up and tackling the guy so he fell into the ravine. I thought that was a cool way of just surprise attacking them. I'm hoping that I don't just like staring people down seems like kind of a weird thing, but I definitely know she shoots people later, so I'm down for that.
I've got to say, this is the best Fire Emblem anime I've ever seen.
No,
I want to play the game, but I like the anime. Oh, is it like tactical, or do you just like press the button to like give the boys gifts?
Oh, the Fushigi Yuki game is a visual novel.
That's not what I want. I want to play like boyfriend chess versus dragons.
Probably be Go in this case.
That's
my favorite phone app. I just
made by.
I actually just like take pictures of guys I like, and then put them in a folder in my computer.
Okay.
That seems isn't that what that game is about?
Yeah, it's Boyfriend Go. I gotta capture all the boyfriends by.
I mean, I want to play Awakening because I think Crom seems like
he
my
does
type,
seem like your type.
Like no shade. Thanks for the confirmation. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, Yona finished. So we finish up this stretch of episodes with Yona getting the plot significant haircut, falling off a cliff, avoiding a panty shot because traditional Korean clothes wear dresses have pants underneath.
When would that happen? When she was falling off the cliff?
Yeah, it showed like a...
You get an upskirt because she's diving headfirst towards stone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, there are anime that are like classless enough.
Yeah. They're definitely anime that would have taken advantage of that horrific moment to show
There is like
panties.
one nudity scene, but it's like she's bathing afterwards and Hawk gives her her clothes, and it's like not gazy, but it's clearly supposed to be like, oh, he's respectful of her, while also there is tension between them.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh wait, she's naked.
The leeches were kind of a mood killer too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, for most
I did like that there was like, he didn't also just be like, oh, naked, when she was like injured and needed his help like that. So as far as naked scenes go, it like helped the dynamic and was like just like tense enough to like help the romance while being practical.
He's very respectful when it counts. He also had, I'm sure like he got that all beaten out of him by world's greatest grandpa, Mundock.
Moondog. That's my favorite.
Who is awesome.
All right.
I mostly bring him up because I wanted to call him the world's greatest grandpa.
Yeah, he doesn't sell you out to the bastards who've taken your throne.
I really, really like his last scene with Yona before she leaves, where like he just like gives her a hug and he's like, I can't believe like another grandchild. Like both two of my grandchildren are like going off to do this. Like he clearly like he loves her a lot, and like he just sort of takes in every like orphan child that he meets. He adopted Hawk. He adopted that little kid. He like kind of adopts Yona. It's very sweet. Like this show has like really good like father figures. Not a lot of maternal
it has good like
figures,
gentle fathers. Like Some of them are badass, and other ones are just like Beanie Babies, like the king. But they're both badass in their own way.
And Yona is scared of Suwon's dad, but like obviously like they love each other. Like Suwon and his dad, like they love each other a lot.
Is Suwon's dad still around? I thought he was dead.
No, he's dead. It was in a flashback.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
When they were sick.
He showed up when she was sick. That's right.
That flashback did not need to be that long.
Yeah, that was a pretty.
Like the flashbacks, I really do like. I respect what they're doing for setting things up, but I think even if they weren't cut entirely, they could be made a lot shorter.
I was okay with it because I was like, I like these characters. I want to see a little more about like their history together. Although they were a bit oddly placed, like they just were betrayed. Okay, we're going to start the next episode with an extended flashback to them being friends as kids.
Yeah, that was a very Black Clover move. Show
like just sort of the impact of the level of the betrayal, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe Hang Day is fucking dead.
Rip
Hang Day.
Wait, which one was he?
He was the Wind Tribe. You're ruining the joke, Peter. He's the Wind Tribe guy who they kept saying was dead, who was not dead.
But one day the Bishonen nation attacked. And the 5 tribes up, dirt, wet, hot, and air.
Now Yona must gather all warriors of all 4 elements. She must gather
4 hot guys of
Hands,
all 5 elements.
Yeah.
Eyes,
so
legs.
It's Avatar except boyfriends.
What Avatar should have been.
If only Aang was
I love Avatar, and I will not hear anything ill about the first series. Korra, there are fair criticisms, and I never finished watching it, but the first series of Avatar was incredible, and I will not let you slander it on
I apologize. Caitlin.
No. But yeah, so is there anything else that we need to cover that we should talk about that hasn't come up so far?
Feel like we kind of hit all the big character stuff. Yona just got like her big moment, so I guess we'll see which way she starts growing into soon. Obviously, we're going to start collecting boyfriends in the near future. And I think we're kind of in agreement about there being a lot more to Sunwoo betrayal. So I expect we'll get a lot more. I don't want to say he's going to be like sympathetic, but you'll learn a lot more like why he's doing what he's doing while Yona gets ready to kick his ass.
I'm really curious about, I think, we met like the 2 brothers at the end of episode 6, right?
No, so they weren't brothers. They were Iksu,
the blonde people.
Yeah, the ones who saved Yona.
Yeah.
And Hawk after they fell off the cliff. Yeah. So they're not brothers. Yoon is the younger one, and he's just a random passing Bishonen. No, he's an important character. But that is what he calls himself. And there's Iksu, who is the priest who I think Mundock told who told Yona to seek out.
They mentioned a prophecy. Did we like learn what the prophecy was, and did I forget it? Okay.
No.
So I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew they were going to show up because he is able to see into the future, I guess.
Mm-hmm. You can tell because you can't see his eyes. All blind characters are prophets. Just like Jared.
And X 1999.
I suspect.
Nothing specific.
Is Oracle guy going to be a boyfriend? I wasn't paying attention to the opening.
I would, if I were going to make a prediction, I'd say yes, he is boyfriend material.
Yep. The opening's pretty good too. I like
of,
it's kind of not super like original, but I like sort of like the epic storytelling. Like, let's list all the boyfriends you're going to get with action scenes and stuff.
My prediction is the chipmunk will appear in the next 6 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that we find out that they're in the country of Wano, and that she, in fact, does have Emperor Hockey.
Are they going to play hockey? They're going to be Emperor Hockey.
Haki.
Ice hockey.
It's
I had a coworker named Hockey who spelled her name like that, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. So I think that wraps us up. So that's been our show. Thank you to Gabo for coming and talking to us about Yona.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to the next episode. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and give us a rating and or review on iTunes. And also, you can help support our site on Patreon and help us get that good both podcast and written blog entry content in your eyes and in your ears.
Do it.
We have a lot of projects. We just had our first successful Indiegogo game, our successful first Indiegogo campaign. And so now that helped raise money for a lot of one-off things that we needed to do and that we wanted to do. And now we need Patreon money for the recurring costs that we want to get money for some really big projects, including paying our freelancers more and getting into video content, all that sort of stuff. So go ahead and if you're not already, we would really appreciate if you could donate to our Patreon at patreon.com/animefeminist. You can also check out our site, animefeminist.com. You can find us on Twitter at animefeminist. You can find us on Tumblr at animefeminist, and you can find us on Facebook as at animefem.
Yep.
Okay. I did it.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening. And insert witty closing line here.
Happy New Year, although you won't listen to this until like halfway through January.
Oh, more than that.
No.
Because we still got to get through Escaflowne.
Oh, God, yeah.
We're bi-weekly now.
Happy New Year from the past people in February, March.
People.
Happy Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, whenever this comes out.
Hello, people of the future. I hope things have not gotten worse.